What if the entire system was designed to feel this difficult? Not as a glitch, not as a random error in the code of your particular life, but as a fundamental, intentional feature of the human experience itself. We spend so much of our energy fighting this notion, convinced that a well-lived life should be smooth, a gentle river carrying us towards our destiny. We see friction as failure. We interpret resistance as a sign that we are on the wrong path, that we have made a terrible mistake. But what if we have it all backwards? What if the friction is the very thing that forges us? What if the resistance is not a wall to stop you, but a gymnasium to strengthen you? We've all felt the weight of it, that profound and personal gravity. It's in the meticulously laid plans that dissolve in an instant, the phone call that brings news you never saw coming, the silent, heavy dread that settles in your chest on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday morning. It's the project that collapses at the final hurdle, the relationship that frays despite your best efforts, the dream that seems to recede further with every step you take towards it. This feeling is so universal, so deeply woven into the fabric of our days, that to ignore it is to ignore reality itself. It's not just you. The machinery of modern existence, with its relentless pace, its infinite comparisons, its demands for perfection, is built with friction. It generates heat, it causes wear. But that friction isn't necessarily a sign of your failure. What if it is a feature of the journey itself? A necessary component for traction, for growth, for meaning? The struggle is not the enemy of the path, it is the path. The climb is not separate from the mountain, it is the mount. To wish for a summit without the ascent is to wish for a story without a plot, a song without a melody. It is to desire an empty victory, a prize that holds no value because it cost you nothing. Think about the last time you faced a genuine, soul-testing challenge. Not a minor inconvenience, but a true trial that shook the foundations of your world. In that moment of raw vulnerability, what was the story you began to tell yourself? What narrative did your mind, in its desperate search for a reason, begin to construct? Was it a story of a hostile universe, a cold and indifferent cosmos that had singled you out for special punishment? Was it a story of your own unique cursedness, a fundamental flaw that destined you for hardship? Or perhaps it was a story of injustice, a ledger where your good deeds were overlooked and your suffering was compounded by its apparent meaninglessness. These stories are seductive. They offer a simple, if painful, explanation. They create a framework, however bleak, for understanding the chaos. But they are also prisons. They lock you into a perspective where you are either a victim of external malice or the architect of your own ruin. Neither leaves room for agency, for resilience, for the possibility of a deeper meaning hidden within the pain. This is the critical junction we all face, the fork in the road that appears not on a map, but in the landscape of our soul. One path, well-worn and deceptively easy, leads you towards bitterness. It invites you to let that narrative take root, to water it with your resentment until it becomes a towering tree whose shadow darkens everything in your life. It convinces you that everything is fundamentally broken. The world, the system, other people, and ultimately you. This path promises a certain grim satisfaction. It feels righteous to assign blame. But this path is a descent. It narrows your world. It isolates you. The other path is steeper, less obvious, and requires a conscious, often difficult choice. It is the path of clinging to a deeper, more resilient perspective. It does not deny the pain. It does not pretend the difficulty isn't real. Instead, it chooses to look through the difficulty, to search for a context larger than the immediate suffering. It is the decision to believe that the story is not over, that the final chapter has not been written, and that this present darkness might be a scene in a much larger, more beautiful narrative that you cannot yet fully see. One framework that has endured for millennia across cultures and creeds suggests a profound and comforting duality, that while the world is inherently challenging, fractured, and often unfair, the ultimate source of all being, the ground of all existence, is inherently good. This is a crucial distinction, and we must not get the two confused. The brokenness of the world, with all its pain and injustice, does not reflect the true nature of its creator. any more than a corrupted file reflects the intent of the programmer who wrote the original, flawless code. The world operates with delays, detours, and dust. It is a journey with unexpected stops, frustrating sidetracks, and periods where the view is obscured by the smoke and grime of circumstance. But the journey with a conscious connection to a higher purpose, the journey walked in alignment with this foundational good, that is what is profoundly, unshakably good. The goodness is not in the circumstance, it is in the connection. The peace is not in the absence of storms, but in the presence of an anchor. I am going to experience hardship. You are going to experience hardship. We all will. This is not a pessimistic prediction. It is a simple, factual statement about the nature of a human life. To expect otherwise is to set oneself up for a lifetime of shock and disappointment. But here is the revolutionary shift. With every difficult step, I do not have to lose my footing. I do not have to be eroded by the struggle. In fact, I can find a more solid, more unshakable foundation precisely because I accept the reality that the road is hard. My stability does not come from the road being easy. It comes from the strength of my own legs and the reliability of the compass I carry. And I am not walking this road alone. The feeling of isolation, of being a solitary traveler in a desolate landscape, is one of the great lies of suffering. Connection to something beyond yourself, to a purpose, to a community, to the divine, is the antidote to despair. If you want to disrupt the narrative of despair, to break the hypnotic spell of negativity that the world so often casts, try a simple, powerful, and profoundly disruptive act. Try repeating a fundamental truth. There is still good. Say it 20 times a day. Say it when you wake up and the weight is already there. Say it when you receive bad news. Say it when you feel utterly alone. There is still good. This is not a naive affirmation. It is a declaration of war. It is a conscious choice to recalibrate your perception. The voice of despair, the whisper of lies, wants you to fixate on every disappointment, every injustice, every single thing that has ever gone wrong in your life. It wants to compile this evidence into an unassailable case that concludes, well, you see, if there was any real good in the universe, then these terrible things wouldn't be happening to you. Therefore, there is no good. Therefore, you are alone. That is the core of the lie. It is a logical fallacy built on a flawed premise. Don't ever let that sentence form in your mind. If there was good, then this wouldn't be happening. Stop it before it finishes. The presence of difficulty does not disprove the presence of good. The existence of pain does not negate the existence of love. In fact, they often exist in the same space at the same time. There is good. It is a fundamental, unshakable fact of reality, as real as gravity, as real as light. I'm telling you this now with as much conviction as I can muster. Whatever your circumstances, whether you are in a season of lack or a season of plenty, whether you are surrounded by friends or aching with loneliness, whether you are healthy or facing illness, there is a fundamental, unshakable good that underpins all of reality. It does not wax and wane with your bank account. It does not get sick. It does not die. Your job, in the face of everything that would convince you otherwise, is to not quit. Do not give up. To persevere is not just to endure. It is an act of faith. It is a vote cast for the goodness you cannot always see, but that you choose to believe is there. To do this effectively, we have to correctly identify the actual source of the noise. We have to recognize the real opposition. It is a critical error to believe that the system itself, the world with all its inherent friction, is the ultimate enemy. It is a catastrophic misdiagnosis to believe that the source of good, the foundational love of the universe, has turned against you. Our struggle, as the ancient texts and the deepest intuitions of the human heart suggest, has always been against a different voice altogether, the voice of chaos and lies, the one with no truth in it. This is not a metaphorical concept for many, it is a spiritual reality. This voice is the ultimate saboteur. Its nature is the complete antithesis of the good, where your true nature, the you, that is made in the image of the Creator, inherently seeks growth, peace, connection, and love. The saboteur seeks only to plunder, to end, and to shatter. It is a force of pure entropy. This saboteur is brilliantly opportunistic. It leverages your pain for maximum damage. It takes a legitimate hurt and amplifies it into a defining tragedy. It takes a single failure and uses it to write the story of your entire life. It is the shadow that looms largest in your lowest moments, the whisper that tries to convince you that hope is a childish fantasy, that trust is for fools, and that turning away from what is solid and real is your only logical option. But the nature of the good is so profound, so relentlessly loving, that it never leaves us without a way back. It always provides a path to restore connection, to heal the breach, to bring light into the very darkness that the saboteur claims as its absolute domain. The saboteur's mission is clear and singular: to plunder your peace, to end your hope, and to shatter your relationships with God, with others, and with yourself. Its methodology is theft and destruction, but the nature of the good is to give. It is a fountain, not a drain. It gives gifts that are whole and perfect. What is its essential character? It is vital that we understand this. It is not a cruel, sadistic deity who enjoys seeing you in pain or who tests you for sport. This is a monstrous caricature. The true nature of the good was demonstrated in the most powerful way possible. It offered the ultimate expression of love to bridge the greatest divide, to solve the fundamental problem of separation. It is, at its core, a hope generator. That is its primary function. When you feel completely hopeless, when your internal resources are exhausted and the world has gone gray, the good is the external source that generates hope anew. It plugs you into a current that you cannot generate on your own. A profound teacher, Jesus, once gathered his closest friends and told them with stunning bluntness, "In this world, you are guaranteed to face trouble." He offered no sugar-coated version of reality. He did not promise health, wealth, and ease. He promised the opposite of tribulation. But he did not stop there. He immediately followed this stark truth with a monumental promise. "But take heart, be courageous, be confident. I have overcome the world." Let that statement sink in. What do you truly have to fear? Your current problems, as overwhelming as they feel, are momentary when held against the scope of eternity. They are a single sentence in a long, long story. The one who speaks to you has already achieved the ultimate victory over the very system that produces the trouble. I have overcome the world. This is not a future hope, it is a present reality. The outcome of the great struggle is already decided. And so, every single one of us, when we arrive at the crossroads of pain, stands at a decision point with only two possible turns. You can run from the light. You can, in your anger and resentment at the pain, turn your back on the source of good, blaming it for your predicament. Or you can do the counter-intuitive thing. You can hold on to the light with every ounce of hope and raw, desperate need you have left. You can cling to it like a lifeline in a stormy sea. Here is the crucial, life-altering realization that often escapes us in the moment. If you choose to run, you do not eliminate the pain from your life. Choosing bitterness does not magically make the hardship disappear. The cancer does not vanish because you are angry at God. The bankruptcy is not reversed because you curse the universe. The betrayal still happened. What it does mean is that you will still have all the pain, but you will have voluntarily severed your connection to the one thing that can help you bear it, hope. You will have the suffering, but you will not have the solace. You will have the wound, but you will have rejected the medicine. Conversely, if you stand at that painful intersection and choose to hold on with hope and desperate need, you are not choosing a pain-free life. You will still experience the pain in all its acute, sharp reality. But you will also experience something else happening simultaneously. You will experience hope. Not a hope that magically removes the pain, but a hope that walks with you through it. A hope that can withstand the pain, that can endure its onslaught without breaking. And even more miraculously, a hope that exists beyond the pain. A hope for a future where the pain is not the final word, where healing and restoration are possible. We need a worldview, a theology of life, that is robust enough to include suffering, because suffering is unavoidable. A philosophy that only works in times of peace and prosperity is a fair weather faith, and it will collapse at the first sign of a real storm. Every major wisdom writer in the New Testament Paul, Peter, James, the gospel writers, Jude, all tell us the same uncomfortable truth. Life is going to be painful. Jesus said it plainly, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." It is clear, life is challenging. It is a demanding journey. Does that feel true for you today? I suspect it does. There are things in your life right now that you wish were different. There are circumstances and situations that, if you had been given a choice, you would have never chosen. You would have picked another path, a smoother road, a lighter burden. The road is hard. This is an inescapable fact of our existence. But the difficulty of the journey is not unique to a life lived with purpose and faith. What is unique is the solution available within it. The atheist, the agnostic, the person of any faith or none, they all experience the same hardships. The rain falls on everyone. What is unique to the path of connection is the availability of a specific kind of hope. It is not a vague optimism. It is a sure and certain hope built on a historical event and a divine promise that allows us to endure and even grow through the most crushing days. This hope is an active force, a source of strength that we can draw upon. The teacher Jesus said we would have trials and troubles of many kinds. He prepared us for it. And the Apostle Paul, a man who faced imprisonment, shipwreck, beatings, and constant danger, said this in his second letter to the Corinthians. That is why we never give up. How many of you know, in the very core of your being, that you simply cannot surrender? You can't give up. The stakes are too high. Your soul knows there is something worth fighting for. So Paul explains the mechanism. He says, don't let the problems of this life be the final verdict on God's goodness or your future. He continues, that is why we never give up. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. This is the great paradox. While our bodies age, our circumstances fluctuate, and our external world decays, there is an inner person, a spiritual core, that can actually grow stronger, brighter, and more resilient through the very trials that threaten to destroy the outer shell. This is the process of renewal. He then makes a statement that requires the eyes of faith to believe. For our present troubles are quite small and won't last very long. Compared to the weight of eternal glory, compared to the vast timeline of forever, yes, they are momentary, they are light. Yet they produce for us an immeasurably great glory that will last forever. The pain is not wasted, it is being used. It is a tool in the hands of a master craftsman who is shaping something eternal in you. Therefore, Paul says, so we don't look at the troubles we can see right now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. We train our attention not on the temporary visible problem, but on the eternal invisible realities God's love, His promises, the hope of heaven, the work He is doing in our character. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. This is the ultimate Copernican revolution of the soul. We cannot let what we observe with our physical eyes dictate what we know to be true in our spiritual hearts. We cannot let our daily, changing circumstances be the barometer for the constant, unchanging nature of the good. Our feelings are fickle. Our situations are temporary. God's character is eternal and good. Why must we live this way? Paul gives us the ultimate reason in 2 Corinthians 5:70. For we live by believing, by trusting, by having faith in what we know to be true, and not by relying solely on what our physical senses tell us. We walk by faith, not by sight. Sight says the storm is raging. Faith says there is a calm above the clouds. Sight says the wound is deep. Faith says the healer is present. Sight says the resources are gone. Faith says the provider is abundant. The ultimate proof of this principle is the darkest day in human history. It was a day of brutal, state-sanctioned execution, of immense physical pain and profound spiritual suffering. On that darkest day, when the embodiment of pure love, Jesus Christ, was sacrificed as a ransom for the sins of the world, and when He took His final, agonizing breath, the Gospels tell us that an utter, supernatural darkness fell over the land. Think of the questions, the despair, the shattered hopes that would have filled that moment for His followers. Everything they had believed in, everything they had hoped for, seemed to be dying on that cross. It appeared, from every possible human perspective, that evil had won, that darkness had triumphed, that the forces of chaos and lies had finally extinguished the light. And yet, this is the pivot point of all history. Even on that day, the source of all good was working. He was turning the very darkest act ever committed into the greatest good ever accomplished. The cross, the symbol of shame and defeat, became the instrument of salvation and victory. What looked like the ultimate victory of the saboteur was, in reality, the saboteur's ultimate defeat. In that moment, God was taking the very worst that the world and the enemy could do and was using it to purchase our redemption. We have a hope that endures because it is a hope that has already stared into the deepest darkness and has seen it overcome. It is a hope that there is a day coming when all things, every single broken and painful thing, will be made right, restored, and redeemed. I have seen in the cross of Christ and in the glory of the resurrection that followed something so beautiful, so profound, that it allows me to keep moving forward. It gives me a framework for trusting God, even in life's most difficult and confusing moments. I want to cultivate the kind of faith that is strong enough to endure, flexible enough to not shatter, and deep enough to find nourishment even when the winds of life blow at their hurricane force, threatening to uproot everything. But I am believing today, right now, that somehow God, in his infinite wisdom and mysterious economy, could use the specific pain in my life for a great purpose. I may not see it now. I may not understand it in this lifetime. But I trust the character of the one who holds the plan. And I am believing, with every fiber of my being, that my pain will not have the final word. It will not get the last say in my story. Because Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, the one who overcame the world, gets the final word. And his word is always, always a word of life, of hope, and of redemption.